What's up, everybody? Oh, look at this. I'm starting off horribly already. Tori is a little tiny head, and I'm the giant head. There we go.
There we go.
Man, okay, so here's the deal. I don't know how many of you guys are joining us right now or will be joining us, but I'm going to tell you this much. I have the pleasure of talking to Tori Letourneau. And for those of you that know me and know how huge of a nerd I am about acro and know Tori and know how amazing she is, you'll be just as excited as I am. And so, Tori, first off, thank you for kind of stepping away and joining. But I don't know whether to say good afternoon or good evening to you because you're on like the other side of the world right now. What time
yeah,
is it?
yeah. Good afternoon. It's almost 2:00 for me right now. And
Yeah,
thank you for having me, Kyle. This is a great opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Oh goodness, yes. This is so. Tori and I got a chance to meet whenever Hawaii Pacific came and played UMHB at Belton. So I got a chance to broadcast and get all excited and do my thing where I'm just excited and yelling and having a good time. And then Tori came up to me afterwards and we had a great chat. It was awesome. And then also kind of started to realize all of the interactions, because obviously Hawaii Pacific has played UMHB so much, and so then there's a lot of camaraderie on that sense. But then also, I guess because of you guys being in the kind of the upper echelons for so long of acro and tumbling, you also have kind of played against everybody over your career.
Yes, yeah.
And so kind of how does that wind up happening where, obviously we've talked about this. You guys don't play defense against each other. So nobody's out there trying to knock you over while you're building a pyramid. So that would change the sport a little bit. But how does that go where you just kind of wind up building all these crazy relationships across the country?
Yeah, so because the sport is so small, it's really important to us that, and with the lack of defense, like you said, that after the sport is over and it's only 4 years, if we really want to continue to grow the sport afterwards, like we need to be able to establish those connections and even make friendships amongst those other teams, because if we want to be able to make this sport as collaborative and as large as we want it to be, the vision that most of us athletes have for the sport, like being able to collaborate with each other is going to be really helpful, especially us athletes that want to eventually become coaches. Like if you go into the sport and be like, I hate this girl, and then you end up having to coach with her, that would really suck, right? So and that could easily happen because there's very few teams, right, in this sport alone. And so it's very likely that a girl that you meet while competing, or even that you watch competing, may be one of your peers one day, or you may even be on the same staff as her. So it's really important to have those connections and to build off of them, or even just support each other, whether it's liking each other's Instagram posts, that have to do with acro. Like it, just small stuff like that builds the camaraderie is so important for the growth in the sport.
Well, and you're in a really interesting position because, and we'll kind of talk about your background here in a little bit. I'm jumping ahead of myself, but I would, that's just me. We're going to talk about wherever we go. So you're from Eugene, Oregon, and so you wound up at Hawaii Pacific. And so we were talking. All right. So for those of you who don't know me, anytime there's anything acro going on, there's like 4 or 5 people that I'm constantly messaging. Tori has jumped into that group. And so there's Tori, there's Caitlin Kolajizik, who we're going to watch here in a little bit when they finally get started. We were talking about how long some of these were taking, and so the Oregon and Quinnipiac went forever. But so there's Caitlin Kolajizik that we'll watch in a little bit, and but it's really funny because so there's 2 branches within acro and tumbling. There's the Oregon branch and there's the Baylor branch. And what's really funny is there's not always a ton of crossover. Now, here's the deal. I'm not like the all-knowing power of acro and tumbling. So I'm sure there is some somewhere. Okay. But normally there's not a ton of crossover. You are the person, though, that I see being more of a crossover than anything, because we were talking about this. So you got all excited about Oregon. I'm assuming when you said you jumped up and yelled, you're an Oregon fan.
I am an Oregon fan. I can go anywhere in the world, but I will be a Duck forever.
And so, but also, just your personality and the way that you interact so well with everyone. I see, at UMHB, obviously, got a chance to see how you interacted with the ladies, and that kind of comes out of the Baylor branch. I got to hear about your conversation with Caitlin, and so Caitlin and obviously, with Augustana. They're kind of coming out of the Baylor branch. So,
Yes.
I've kind of been waiting on this thing within acro and tumbling where these two branches actually kind of start to merge. And
Yeah.
I think that this next generation of coaches may be the ones who wind up merging it. Maybe you leading that charge as you're
Yeah.
wanting to get into coaching, right?
Yes, I am looking into coaching, and I think what you're saying is a really good point, and it's actually one that throughout just my 4 years of being a part of Acro has honestly frustrated me a little bit. These like you have to you have to either like Baylor, or you like Oregon, or even Quinnipiac gets skewed in there. Like you have to like one or the other, and it's like it's a versus sort of deal. And of course, the sport is about the wins and losses, and they're going to compete against each other, right? But that doesn't mean you can lose the ability to not support the athletes on the team, and there's a lot of that lost in there. I think there was a lot of drama in last year's national championships of what happened in the semifinals with Gannon and Quinnipiac competing against each other, and then it became a I'm on this team's side or I'm on this team's side. But like people forget those are real athletes and real humans that are competing and that are representing those schools. And so I'd really like to at least kind of smash the narrative that there's like this, you support either Baylor or you support Oregon or the girls on those teams, because like they're all amazing athletes. They're all amazing people. Like I have a ton of, actually, I have more relationships with girls on the Baylor team than I do on Oregon even. And so it's I support everybody is really the narrative.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too, because you look at this and you talk about some of the drama, and I think the further into these things you get, you begin to see things and you begin to realize things, and you go, that was interesting how that went, and the way that team interacts is interesting how that goes. But I'm with you, and I think because it's one of the big deals that I do when I'm broadcasting is I'm really trying to bring it back to how incredible the athletes are and how incredible the sport is. And while there is that, I go and then you have to match me. And if you don't match me, then I'm going to win. But also it's kind of one of those where, it's kind of you versus you. And it's, am I going to do this? And are you going to be able to face off against yourself? We're going to do it on the same mat. And then from there, I just think sometimes we get into this, I don't want to just call it football because I'm in Texas, so everything relates to football.
Yes, yeah, obviously.
Kind of this, I guess, mainstream sport mentality where it has to, everything has to be a rivalry. It has to be me versus you, and I have to not like you if we're going to be the two that are going head to head.
Yeah, and a rivalry is so fun, obviously, right? Like everyone wants that, and there's teams that have that, right? With like we say that Azusa Pacific and HPU have a rivalry. Like we go back and forth, whatever, right? But there's still like healthy and supportive ways to do that. And it's not just the athletes on those teams that are noticing that. It's the entire acro community that watches how those things get put together, right? And so I think that it's just really important to, as athletes specifically, like how you handle yourself while you're either in that meet itself or even aftermath, like whoever won, whoever lost, like how you choose to handle that is like it doesn't squash the rivalry whatsoever. Like that's awesome, we can keep that, but can it be healthy? Can there be that supportive like competition still there? And that's really important. That's what I'd still like to continue to see.
Well, and so a quick segue. I want to hop off the train for just a second because something that I noticed in your bio is not only do you want to coach, but you also want to be a mental health advocate for young athletes. And so here's the deal. That is something that is near and dear to my heart. You see like the logo in the corner. It's not just bright green because like I like the color. It's bright green because that's mental health awareness. Tell me a little bit about kind of what brought that about? I mean, because it's interesting. It jumped out to me, obviously, because of kind of where I stand with the mental health world. But then I'm reading this. You say, where do I want to be in 10 years? I want to be a coach for acro and tumbling, which is awesome. I'm so glad that that's kind of one of your goals. And then two is like, I want to be a mental health advocate. Like those two things really, I was like, wow, that's really cool. Why is that such an important thing in your life?
Yeah, so I came into college knowing that I wanted to major in psychology. That was already like, that's been my thing. I've been obsessed with anything psychology. But I started actually college thinking I'm going to do more like forensics. Like I was into criminal justice as well. So I kind of went on that path for a little bit. And then I don't know if you know anything about the history of HPU Acro and the turmoil that it's been through in the last 4 years. But we, at least in my 4 years, I've had four different head coaches in my time there, right? And among that, four different assistant coaches bundled in with that, some administrative issues. There's been a lot, and even more underlying things as well. And so having to deal with all of that while still going to school for psychology, I realized that I'm literally being given a lot of the tools that could maybe not help my team, when we're losing a head coach or an assistant coach or administrative issues. And maybe it can't help with that, but all the turmoil that we're facing from that, I have the tools and I have the resources being given to me through school to be able to help my teammates, or at least talk to them or work through some of the stuff, and the leadership capabilities as well. We learn a lot about leadership in my psychology classes as well. And so I then kind of naturally started doing that, where I saw a gap for it, where there was no leadership. And so I kind of turned into that person that could, even if I wasn't getting the tools in class, I was coming home after practice, be like, oh my gosh, this teammate is dealing with this thing, searching up on my computer or emailing professors, this is what we're dealing with in practice today. We don't have a head coach. We're practicing on our own. How can I talk my teammate through something like this? Or, how can I navigate this? And so I was doing a lot of that on my own. And even after Coach Daisha then ended up getting hired, and she'll be with us for a long time. I know it. But after that, I realized, okay, this was not a temporary position for me on this team, or just in this sport or my life. This was something I grew into. This was a passion that was created for me. And I've gotten so much positive feedback, not only from my team, from friends, from family, on the work that I've been able to do with my team, that I actually this last year created a program specifically for my team, that was it's kind of a 9-month program of mental health awareness and advocacy, and some education, where I sat down with my team every Sunday before practice, and we did reflection questions. We talked to each other. We learned about leadership. We learned about communication. We learned about every single aspect that has to do with mental health in sports, because although we had an amazing head coach, we all were traumatized a little bit from the things that we had gone through from the past 2 or even just last year, for some of our sophomores at that time. And so I really saw a gap of okay, for Coach Dacia's sake, we need to flip ourselves around. We can't sit here and be like, oh, that's awesome, we have a great head coach now, but we're still traumatized and are going to affect her from what we've dealt with in the past. And so I sat down and addressed almost every issue that we were dealing with in the past, at least my past 4 years, and beyond that, and really worked through that with my team. And so now, although I won't be there for the team next year, they at least have the foundations, and they even were taking notes during this stuff, to be able to kind of help the underclassmen, as well as when they start to dip, or have adversities that they go through, that they can at least deal with it. So that was a little long story short, but that's kind of where it's gotten me.
Oh yeah, man, I'm trying to take all this in. I'm so blown away by all this. So okay, let's not. Here's the deal: is I don't want anyone to miss what Tori just said. Tori has created a 9-month mental health advocacy program for athletes. And so here's the deal. I don't know, for the 3 people that are going to wind up watching this, no offense to you, Tori, it's my fault. Somebody needs to reach out to her and ask her about this program, because people think that writing programs for stuff like that is not difficult, because people write books and stuff all the time. That's incredibly difficult. I have sat down, Tori, I have sat down at times, you know my personality. I have sat down many times determined to write out 3 or 4 pages, just 3 or 4 pages of oh, I had this really good thought, I'm going to write this down. I get a half a page through and I'm like, never mind, it's not any good. To write a 9-month mental health program is unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. So do me a favor, tell me this then. I'm not gonna. I don't want to delve too far into any of this, but so how long were you? And I know you didn't call yourself the de facto coach. I'm not. But how long were you kind of the de facto? Like I'm kind of the senior leader. Let's kind of like get this going without a coach because I know that Daisha didn't get the job until like August 9th.
Yeah.
Like basically right before the season or right before the school year. How
Yeah.
long were you guys without like a coach at all?
Yeah. So previously before Daisha, we had another head coach, and so before she had came in, so actually my at the end of my freshman year,
Mhm.
our my original coach that recruited me to HPU, she sat us down at the end of the season and was like, "Hey guys, I will no longer be here. I'd like to start a family. I'm going to be moving on from this. Can't really. It's not a lot of opportunities in Hawaii for family growth at least." And so she's like, "I'm moving on, right?" And then our assistant coach also same thing. I'm moving on. But hey guys, I'm gonna help you find a head coach. I'm really connected in this sport, and which he was, right?
Mhm.
And so then we went a good the 3 months of summer
Mhm.
twiddling our thumbs basically. And at this
Yeah.
point I'm just an incoming sophomore at this
Mhm.
point. So I don't have a lot of pull in my team still. I even my first year I was only competing in comp tumbling,
Mhm.
just in compulsory tumbling. So it's not even like I was, some big dog on the team or anything. There was nothing of that. So I kind of at that point sat back and watched, and then it got to the point where school is supposed to start, and we have no coach. No, have not heard from anyone. Practice is supposed to start. School is supposed to start. Everything, and so we actually had a student athlete on the team who coincidentally had her bachelor's degree already. She was going into her senior year of college, but had already gotten her bachelor's degree and was going to go get her doctorate in psychology. And so, what part of the job description for an HPU acro coach is that you need to be experienced in acro and you need to have a bachelor's degree. And so she then became
That's,
our interim. She
yeah.
became our interim head coach, and
Oh my
so
gosh.
through that, I I had already had kind of a relationship with her at that
Mhm.
point and was able to, while she was working on the administrative side of things and trying to create heats, and while still being friends with a lot of the girls on the team, and which created a lot of turmoil, as you
Oh
may
yeah.
expect. I was able to kind of be that bridge that I was like, okay, I know I'm not going to be in much, and so she it's not going to be like people see me talking to her and be like, oh, she's putting Tori in things, because I wasn't going to be. That wasn't we weren't concerned about me being in things at that point. And so it was like, okay, I'll start being that bridge. And so then when she had to step down as our head coach while we were still trying to find a coach, I then from that point was able to step up and be a coach in that situation, kind of for the team while we were looking for another head coach. Oh,
Oh, sorry. I think you
back
lost
there.
me. And so I think I'm back though. I'm sorry. I
Okay. No,
apologize.
no, no, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah. So I was just saying that, like, while that current coach, she had to step down from being our interim coach while they were still in the process of looking
Mhm.
for a head coach. And so I kind of stepped into that position. And even because our administration was struggling to find someone to move out to Hawaii at the time, I even put together a whole kind of, I don't know, if like a flyer almost of like, this is what we're looking for. Our administrative assistant is not really sure about acro and tumbling, has really no idea what they're looking for even. And so I sent it out to NCAA gymnastics. I was sent it out to the NCATA. I talked to Coach Fee at Baylor briefly about it, and I said, hey, this is a situation that we're in right now. I'm a sophomore heading practices right now.
Mhm.
This is not sustainable whatsoever. We have meets coming up. Like, what are we supposed to do,
Yeah.
right? And so they were able to find a woman that was willing, and she was actually an alumni of HPU that came and moved to Hawaii and was the head coach for about 2 years with us, and made it. And she, in the nicest way, wasn't meant for that position. It was not her career path. It was extremely, extremely kind of her that she was willing to pick up her life for her alma mater
Mhm.
and come help us out, because we wouldn't have competed, period. And in that case, I know this program would not be here
Oh yeah.
without her stepping in to do that. So although not the best case scenario for the time, it worked. And so I take a lot of pride in that I was able to reach out to people because she had no idea about the position. No one knew really anything about the position being open, and so I was able to get her doing that. And then she just this last year after we finished our season also let us know, like, and which we all kind of knew was true, like, I'm not meant to do this anymore, guys. And although it was best for our team, it of course hurt, as that was the second time that someone has done that to our current team, right? And so through over the summer, then she hadn't finished recruiting girls actually for this upcoming class, and so I had taken over with as much recruiting as possible. As an athlete, I can't hand out scholarships or any sort of contracts by any means, but I took over as the contact for that, and was contacting different girls. There was 2 girls from our cheer team here at HPU that had expressed interest in wanting to be on the acro team, and then never got talked to. And so then I ended up convincing them to come on the acro team. I even talked a girl into transferring to our team without even a head coach. so it I have a way, I guess, of things. So I was able to recruit at least enough girls to create a team event before we even got Daisha as a head coach. And then when she got hired, literally the next week, I walked into her office and went through our entire roster and told her every single thing about every single girl on the team, what they're capable of, what their personalities are, like how they like to be coached, how they don't like to be coached, like all the things, so that she could walk into practice still maybe a little uneasy because she doesn't actually know us, but she knows us because I was able to keep all of that information and have it on lock for him.
Okay. So you effectively have like 2.5 years of, oh, my dog's about to start barking.
Okay.
Hang on, I'm going to mute myself. Okay, worst podcast host ever, by the way. So I've got a little dorky Wawa, Dachshund, Yorkie, and Chihuahua mix. And whenever I'm in my office, she likes to sit at my feet, which is awesome. It makes me feel horribly loved. But anytime there's a sound out there, they got to defend the house. And apparently, I think my wife ordered pizza because my son's having a friend stay the night. And so they rang the doorbell, which is just death to everyone. So
exactly.
But so you effectively have like 2.5 years of coaching experience already, and you haven't even coached yet.
Yes. So when I'm reaching out to coaches being like, hey, like I would be a great fit for your program, I try and find the nicest way to say that HPU Acro has like never really had a head coach ever. Yeah. And so I've done a little bit of that already in the nicest way possible.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Okay, so I do have a question. You talked somebody into transferring. Was that Gracie?
No, not Gracie. It's actually Caroline Robertson. She's the one that had the double arm slings. Actually,
yeah, absolutely. Yes. How's she doing?
She's doing great, actually. I happen to live with her actually as well, and so she's back to driving. She's doing little weight exercises now, and she didn't have to get surgery, which was a blessing actually sent from God, that we all were convinced that she was going to have to get like double arm surgery, and she went in and they're like, you got 4 months of recovery and you'll be back and ready to go. So that was like the best news we've ever heard in our whole lives.
I'm blown away by that. I just knew that. So I'm trying to get they switched the stream on me. I'm about to get it up and running. I just knew that like she was going to have like double UCL repair. So that's really awesome.
Yes, that's what we all thought. And that's what our trainer was telling her too. Like, you're not going to see the mat for 2 years. And now she's saying, next season, you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah. It's a blessing.
So I was asking about Gracie. Okay, so for anybody that's watching, so Gracie Hinkle is on Hawaii Pacific. She's a acro and tumble on Hawaii Pacific. She has a twin sister named Shani Hinkle who is at UMHB, and so me and my personality, the Hinkle twins are over there taking pictures after the Hawaii Pacific UMHB meet. And so I'm like, I've got to get a picture of this. And so I go and I put my arms around both of them, and I'm, and we're taking a picture. I'm in the middle of them. And so Shaney's just like, oh, okay, it's Kyle. Like I'm involved with the acro team. I do their broadcast, but also I'm involved in a lot of other ways. And so, I've got that, but then also I've got Gracie, who looks just like Shaney, but Gracie's like, who is this weirdo? And so I was making a joke about it, and actually I think one of the people who was friends with Gracie, I think she actually put something about that on like her friends only Instagram, which was hilarious. Like, and that doesn't even bother me a little bit. Like, I hope that she did. Like, who is this weirdo who is like treating me like he knows me?
Yeah. Oh, that's too funny.
So,
oh my gosh. No,
right,
Gracie
Fox,
is.
I'm going to do this real quick. We're going to keep
Sweetest.
the conversation going, but we're going to pull up. We're going to pull up the semifinal now between Baylor and Augustana, because this is like I'm super excited to be able to do this, because this is I'm a nerd. Y'all know me. I'm an acro nerd. And so when it comes to, so there's Baylor is 40 minutes away. Obviously I've talked a little bit to Coach Fee. I've fanboyed around Coach Fee.
Yes.
Coach Oates is one of the assistants over there. She was the one who started the program at UMHB. So I get a chance to talk to her quite a bit. And then Caitlin Kolajizik is now they call her the graduate fellow. So they don't like to be called, she's not a graduate assistant. She's called a graduate fellow. She's very clear about that at Augustana. And so really excited about this. But okay, Tori, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to take the conversation off of you, because I'm amazed at all of this. Okay, so then tell me this. How did you get from Eugene, Oregon to Hawaii?
Yeah, so actually my career started in competitive gymnastics. And so I did competitive gymnastics up until I was 16 years old, and then had to have a reconstruction surgery on my shoulder. So up until that point, and even after the surgery, like right before, I was like, I'm going to do college gymnastics. Obviously, I don't know anybody who does acro. I haven't heard anything about it. Like, it's not appealing to me really whatsoever. And so I was all in on that. And then I had my whole shoulder reconstructed and had to then look at the bars apparatus and think, I don't think I'll ever do that again. So that may take that opportunity away from me. And so I then kind of quickly started reaching out to a couple of different acro schools. But at that point, I was really like, I don't even know what I want to do. Like, my shoulder doesn't even work anymore. Like, I just don't see a future for myself anywhere. And then when I had heard of Hawaii Pacific, and they have a great psychology program here, and that's what I knew I'd wanted to do anyways. And then I had connections with the coach at the time through people at Eugene, because she was an Oregon Duck herself. Mm-hmm. And so I had connections with her. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep reaching out to her. I'm just going to email her. And, one thing about me is I'm persistent. If I know that I can do something, I am going to make it happen. And so I emailed that woman every single day for probably 3 months until she emailed me back. And at that point, I didn't even tell her that I got shoulder surgery, because I was like, she's going to pass on me if she knows I'm hurt, but I know that I'm going to be even better after this. It's not even the surgery is not even going to matter to her. She won't even know at this point. Right. And so, yeah, I didn't even let her know. Eventually she took a phone call with me, and I was overly enthusiastic with her. I just told her everything I love about her team, her program. I had done all the research for it. And she then decided to take a second call with me, and then was able to offer me a scholarship even to play for the team. And at that point I was like, that's awesome. I have no idea what I'm going to do for you guys. I literally have no idea what the sport is, but and so, yeah, I then was like, okay, great. I'm moving to Hawaii. And it really was the only option for me. Once I started learning about the program and like the family atmosphere that they have, that really, really spoke to me, especially having to move so far away, let alone across the ocean. Mm-hmm. I was like, I need a place that they preach is like family. And so that was really important to me. And so, yeah, I moved out there with my high school boyfriend, actually, who he's now my fiance. So it worked out well, but
yes.
Yeah. So it it was, I definitely took a chance on it, but it was the best decision I ever made. And persistence is key. And I will tell any young athlete that wants to be recruited anywhere, if you want to go somewhere, just email them a bazillion times, call them, do whatever you have to do, because like that's what coaches really want, is they want girls who want to be on their team. They don't
Yeah.
want indecisive athletes. They don't want, I'm looking elsewhere. They don't want that.
Yeah.
This girl wants me and only me. That's what they want. So, and that, I didn't know that at the time. That was just genuinely like my feelings towards the school. But yeah, that's my biggest thing that I tell young athletes trying to get recruited, is like, these coaches want to be wanted just like how you want to. So
Yeah.
make them feel that way, and you'll be on their team. I promise. So
Oh, that's incredible. And okay, one of my favorite things about this sport, and it's really funny because I think we just kind of blow past it real quick, is
mhm.
what's going on right now. So is the compulsory. I love it
Yes,
because what happens is everyone for the entire year does the exact same routine for compulsory. And it really
yes,
gives you a chance to compare like skills to each other, because it, like, we're going to see it in this. We saw it in the previous meet where Baylor's start value is going to be so untouchable for Augustana,
yeah,
in the same way that that Oregon's start value was, especially as the meet went further, was untouchable for Quinnipiac.
yeah,
But here you get a chance to see everyone doing the exact same skills, and
yes.
I really like that, and I think it's a unique element of this sport, that I've I guess I kind of nerd out because I want to make sure that people don't miss the importance of that as we're talking about it. It's just like, oh, who can do the higher skills? It's like, well, I want to
Yes.
see who can do the skills better.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's so important, is that like these are the basics of our skills. A lot of the things that you're going to see after this build on top of the skills that you're watching right now. And so it's really important to not only showcase that, okay, who's going to be better at the basics, but like who can do them, right? It's kind of a preview of to what the entire meet is going to look like, right? You
Yeah.
can really tell about the success of the meet by what they put out at the very start. And teams know that too. And it's a lot of pressure as well. Like even being on a team where it's like, okay, I got to go compete in compulsory acro, the first thing that's happening in the meet. It's sometimes the most pressure that you'll feel throughout the entire meet, because you're putting on the preview for what the judges are going to see, what the opponents are going to see, what everyone's going to see is what you're going to put on for the rest of the meet. So it's a lot of pressure, but it's a lot of fun too, because you get to show off these things that you get to work on for all 4 years even.
Yeah. Okay. So in
The straddles are beautiful.
yeah, those are incredible, and I kind of expect nothing less. I mean, here in the semifinals,
Yeah,
I mean, this is, I think that we're not going to see separation until probably until the tosses, if I had to
yeah,
guess. I think that's kind of where you start to see the difference between a place like Baylor and a place like Augustana. Although,
yeah,
now here's the deal. I mean, I'm not trying to poo-poo Augustana here, because like they just started their program in 2022, like, and now
yeah.
all of a sudden they're the number 4 ranked team in the nation,
It's
and
historic.
yeah, and they're scoring like it too. Like I think that's the deal. Is it's not just like they're. I mean, like there's no doubt that they're the number 4 ranked team in the nation. They kind of announced themselves with authority. Here's the deal: is I say that a lot, thinking that people are going to know what I'm talking about. They really don't. That's a line from Bull Durham. I think that movie is older than you are, Tori, but that's okay. It's
Probably.
nighttime great, right? Because the guy wants to announce my presence with authority, and they came in and they beat number 3 Gannon at the beginning of March. And now here's the deal: Gannon did not have a great season, so but it was kind of a point where Gannon, we kind of started to realize that they were going to do this year. But it also was a point where Augustana was starting to do this, and they have just
Yes.
continued. I mean, their top score is a 268. 268 is astronomical.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. And when you beat a team like Gannon, where they're so established, they've been to the national championship finals before. It's like, okay, is this, are we jinxing it here? Did Gannon have a bad day? That's what people start to think. They're like,
Mhm.
we'll give Augustana the win, but are they really that good, right?
Yeah.
But what's been important with Augustana is that they've improved all season, and that they've been able to beat those top competitors every single time they go against them. And so that really proves the people wrong that are like, was it what did they really?
Yeah.
Yes, they did. They 100% did, and they deserved it too. And so I really like that they've continued to show that and progress throughout the entire season.
Absolutely. And just in case anyone had any doubts as to why all Americans are all Americans, that would be Jordan Grundler there on the left, doing the straddle with her toes up by about her shoulders.
Yeah, Jordan is such a consistent athlete and shows so much athleticism while also like a ton of grace at the same time, right? Is you see that aggression, but you also see her just so soft in her movements at all. And the combination of those two is like chef's kiss for acro and especially as a top as well.
Well, and it's interesting because when you compare, especially when you compare the last 2 years with who she's had to work with. So first, if you go from Bailey Humphrey, who is like the deal is, even if people don't recognize her name, if anybody's watched acro and tumbling at all, you're going to see her and you're gonna know who she is. By the way, she's going to be like, we're going to be watching her on like Monday night soon with wrestling. It's if you don't follow Bailey Humphrey, you need to follow her because here's the deal. First off, Bailey she's just this gigantic muscular Care Bear. She's just the sweetest thing of all time, but she's absolutely huge and she's absolutely ripped. And I don't know, have you ever seen my flexing pictures with Bailey?
No, I have not.
Okay, I'm gonna have to send those to you. So here's the deal: is after the meet when UMHB and Baylor 2 years ago, they were down at Baylor. I went and I took a picture with. No, I'm sorry. It was the summer before that. My daughter went to Baylor's acro camp. And so I said, Bailey, I'm a huge fan. Can I take a picture? She goes, yeah. Do you want it to be a flexing picture? I was like, oh, you speak my language. Of course I want a flexing picture. Well, so she goes and she flexes, I flex. But here's the deal. She also cheated. And so she flexed her quad at the same time. And
her quads are insane.
Yeah, you could see every single muscle. I was like, that's not fair. So then later that year, when UMHB goes to play Baylor, I go down there and I watch, and I see her, and she remembers me mainly because of my daughter. But I'm like, okay, we're gonna take another picture, and so she starts laughing. So I rolled up my shorts, man. I flexed. She still beat me, but I at least stood a chance this time because I knew how many muscles I had to flex.
Yeah.
So, but and so I called Cordy Oates, the assistant at Baylor, and I just said, I was like, listen, this is not actually fair. You don't get to go from Bailey Humphrey to Levy McDonald. That's not supposed to happen. And Levy was hurt last year. Could you have imagined a scenario where Bailey and Levy were on the floor at the same time?
Yeah, well, I don't think it was meant to happen. Like, I think it all happened for a reason because now, like, I'm so impressed that Levy gets to have kind of that spotlight now. And, as much as I do believe that Bailey would have happily shared it, obviously, like, being able to see that transition, like, and it happens so seamlessly, at least on the mat, I don't know what happens at practice, but at least being able to see that happen so seamlessly has been even more impressive than maybe even having both of them out at the same time. Is seeing Jordan be able to go immediately from one to the other and not even skip a beat. They're getting even higher scores now than before. And so it's so incredibly impressive.
Yeah, but I mean, and I guess me, I got way off when I was talking earlier, but to see how Jordan kind of offset. So you have these two incredibly powerful athletes. Then you have Jordan, who, I think it's easy to not call her a powerful athlete because she's so much smaller than they are. But to have Jordan, who she offsets that power with such grace, but also there's so much stability in her movement that there's so much strength there. It's just absolutely unreal.
Yeah. And like you can tell even with Jordan's movements, even though she's graceful, it's the preciseness of where everything is. It's so intentional and that's so important for an athlete that is at her kind of level, is that when you're intentional with those movements, it will make someone who looks graceful on the outside also appear aggressive. And that's really important for this sport is having that grace while also being super, super intentional with your movements. That's what the judges want to see. So
And I'll tell you, obviously Coach Fee has, I'd say, unlocked the secrets, but she's kind of the one who's holding the keys. As I mean, here's the deal. I mean, 13 national champion Let me ask you this, and because I'm pretty sure they haven't, but I'm going to ask the question out loud to make sure I'm not going to say something stupid. Has anyone else other than Coach Fee won a national championship?
Yeah, so no one else other than Coach Fee has won a national championship. So
And at some point you would think that like somebody would catch up. Now, and I'm not saying that people aren't getting better, but it's
yeah.
just amazing to see because Baylor just keeps getting better. It's like wait, how are you guys continuing to score higher?
Mhm.
And it's not. And here's the thing: is and okay, we'll get into the. I'm going to get in, and then we're going to quickly jump back out of kind of the weeds of like some of the drama that goes on. Like the
Yes.
deal is like I know she started the sport, but also like when you watch, if you just watch Baylor with kind of unbiased eyes, you go, yeah,
Mhm.
they're the best team in the nation all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything they do is better, and it's just
Yeah, and
unreal.
Kyle, I completely agree with you. I am on that ship 1000%, and I think it's difficult actually to get people on that boat. I think it's a popular opinion to want to watch the best fall, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I'm a fan of the best, obviously, and when
Yeah,
they are showing time and time again that they are the best, why would you not be a fan,
yeah,
right? I just don't get it. So I like you said, there's drama there with that, and I simply won't feed into that because
yeah,
I don't get it. I don't see
yeah.
it.
And I think it's interesting because I asked Courtney Oates. I said, what is it that makes Fee so good?
Mhm.
And the thing that she told me was that she's never just happy being better than everybody else. That it's one of
Mhm.
these things where she's always got to figure out what is the next thing that we can be doing. Like not just
Yeah.
how can we be doing what we're doing better than everyone else, but what is the thing that we can do that everybody else is going to have to look at and go, need to be able to figure out how to do that.
Yes.
And that's I mean, to start an organization like the NCATA. I mean, the woman started a whole sport for goodness sakes. To
Yeah.
start that, you've got to have a ton of vision. And so it makes sense though that somebody who has that type of vision in terms of just the overall would have that type of vision for the specifics of the sport too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I am on somewhat of a boat where I'd like to see. Of course, I think with the growth of the sport is we're gonna need to see teams that are getting to Baylor's level,
Right.
obviously, because the sport will not continue to grow if we can't have multiple high performing teams, right? And
Mhm.
we do have the Oregons, right? And they're getting there. This is the first year that another team is at a 109 or above start value for their team event. And that's really impressive because Baylor has really been the only one that's up there in the 109s, close to that max of 110, right? And so this is, we're getting closer with that, but what we'll see, tomorrow or even in the two meets that they competed against Oregon and Baylor previous in this year's, there's still a large gap in comparatively to the tenths that we're getting scored on. There's still a very large gap between the teams. So for the growth of the sport, and I'm not saying that Baylor needs to get worse by in any way, but I'd love for teams to almost catch up in a way. And I'm still searching for the answer on how that'll work. Right? It's the athletes that do that. Right? It's not just the coaches, and so I'd like to see that happen just for, I think the sport won't continue to grow if we don't have competitors for Baylor, right?
Well,
Um,
I've been looking at this season, and I've kind of been saying for several weeks now that this has. I'm okay. Caitlin Kolodziejczyk, I love you to death. I'm going to make an assumption that Baylor's going to win here, but I've kind of been saying for a couple of weeks this may be the most competitive national championship that we've ever had because Oregon, while there is a gap from
mhm.
Baylor, Oregon, their top scores are higher than anybody who's been second has been before,
Yes.
and they're not going to get pummeled by Baylor on the tumbling portion.
Mhm.
That's I mean Baylor and Oregon are both going to send out 60 possible points, and
Yeah.
they're the only two teams that do that. And
Yeah.
and so it's going to be interesting because it really I think is going to come down to execution, and
Mhm.
and I think that is exciting when the top two teams are that close. And
Yeah.
we're seeing Quinnipiac and Augustana are kind of in that second grouping. It's going to be interesting to see the way that the growth of the sport impacts because I think usually
Yeah.
the growth of the sport is not going to take away so much from teams like Baylor and Oregon, but I think what it is going to do is it's going to make it more difficult on Quinnipiac, on Augustana, on Gannon, on those types of teams because
Yeah.
as more teams happen, that top talent is dispersed a little bit more, and so it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how much longer it is, maybe before we can add a third team into that conversation.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see with the closing of Limestone University as well. There is a lot of top athletes on that team. Their whole team came to the national championships. Like,
Yeah.
and so with the dispersion of those athletes as well, I think that's going to make big waves in the sport next year. Is how those athletes are now going to be able to contribute on multiple different teams within the NCATA, as well as I'm hearing some of them are transferring within groups even, and so that's just going to make a huge wave in general. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what the impact of that is.
It's gonna be really interesting. Where are you hearing that they're going? I haven't heard anything about any of that.
I am well. So I don't. Gannon lost their head coach
Mhm.
this season, and so I'm hearing a little bit of possibility of Gannon because their head coach, Limestone's head coach, is now looking for a new home.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I'm hearing a little Gannon talk. I'm also hearing a little Missouri State talk.
Ooh,
Coach Kimmy is really well known within the sport,
yeah.
and she is gets out there as well. She's
Oh yeah.
not shy to let you know that she wants girls on her team and wants you to do well. Well, also I want you on my team as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I've heard a little bit of chatter about those two, and I know Converse is also really close to Limestone. So I think there's some girls that are looking into that as well. But the overall theme is that I from what I've heard from a lot of those girls is that they don't want to go anywhere else. Like Limestone was their home, and so it's extremely difficult for them even to talk to coaches right now because it's still very fresh for them. They're having like weekly meetings at their university, still trying to figure out if there's funding for the school to still be around. And so I'm hearing some of the girls, even if the school is around, I might just stay at the school, period. Like they all love Limestone so much. And so it's a really, really hard situation for them. And I simply can't imagine being
Oh
put in
yeah.
that position.
Well, and so for anybody who doesn't know, so Limestone has like a $30 million debt, and they were needing at least an infusion of $6 million around April. Hey, go Crew! There's Coach. I bet they're talking about Caitlin right now. Well, maybe not. So excuse me. I guess they're talking about Acros. Well, here's the deal. I'm gonna tell you this much though: is I'm glad that they showed Caitlin Kolodziejczyk for Acros because I'm gonna tell you this much. We've said some amazing names. Ain't nobody better than Caitlin Kolodziejczyk.
Amen.
You want to talk about an acro? Hey, there's Bailey Humphrey. Okay, so if you don't remember who we're talking about, that was Bailey Humphrey. If nothing else, the quads will show you that it's Bailey Humphrey.
Yes.
Man, I wish I was in control of this video feed so I could like stop it
Yeah.
and kind of go back. But so with Limestone, and you're right, that is, I mean, you're right. That's an entire team that is qualified for the national tournament.
Yeah.
And so if you disperse even half of those ladies, 15 of them, that's a major power shift. And you're right. If a group of them go somewhere, that really changes the landscape, and that could actually, you talk about them going to Gannon. I mean, geez, if their coach goes to Gannon or however it is, because the fact of the matter is, okay, Gannon struggled this year, but it's not like Gannon has a lack of athletes.
Yeah.
If you take the best from Limestone and put them on Gannon, that's almost like a merger tomorrow, and then tomorrow Gannon is all of a sudden competing for the number 2 spot. I don't think just the number 1 spot. I mean, the number 3 spot. Excuse me. That's pretty cool.
No, it's gonna make absolutely huge waves, and yeah, I really hope that coach is able to find a new home because she was able to really help bring Limestone back. Even
Yep.
for the last 2 years, they weren't seeing the national championships, and then having to miss out on that is really unusual for that program. And so having that coach being able to bring them back to even just the number 8 spot and come back to the national championships is huge. So I hope she's able to make an impact wherever she ends up going. So
okay, so here's the deal. One of my, and I'm going to say one of, it may be my most favorite element in the entire sport is the acro element right here.
yes,
Because what it is effectively is it's one person having to hold up another person. And that is wild to me. Like I think we get recency bias. And so, you start with compulsory, and then you go to acro, and then you go to pyramids, then you get this break, and then it's toss, tumbling, team, and so you feel this build at the end. But I got to tell you what, you kind of talked about that you can kind of see as the beginning of the meets begin. When you start talking about acros, it's literally like one person holding another person in the air. while the person in the air is doing something ungodly that I'm sure we're probably about to see Baylor do.
Yeah.
So tell me this story. So I want to lean on your experience here. Tell me a little bit about the strength required of bases in an acro element, because I try when I talk on broadcast to explain to people that, yes, is that girl that is the top, is she 5'2", weighing 112 pounds? Yes, she is. That doesn't mean that she's nothing. Go pick up a 100-pound dumbbell and tell me how heavy a 100-pound dumbbell is. Tell me a little bit about the
Exactly.
strength required to be a base in an acro element.
Yeah, so I actually like to say it's a lot of technique, right? Because when it comes to, like you just said, go pick up a 100-pound dumbbell, we'll see how you do, right? It you can see it. I'm like, okay, I know how to pick that up. Maybe I'm not strong enough for that, right? But when there's that collaboration between that 100-pound dumbbell that now is turned into a girl, that collaboration between the two of you and actually the technique used to build skills like this can sometimes supersede the strength that you have. Of course, amazing strength and the abilities that these women even have is what truly matters. But without the technique and the actual knowledge, I tell my team the whole time, and if any of them are on here, they'll know that I am all about doing things to the textbook. Is that there is a textbook on how to do all of these skills. And so even if you may not be the strongest one on the team, or maybe you're not quite there yet, comparatively to other girls that are doing these skills, there is a right way to do them. And so if you can get that down, then the strength will come. You will build strength and build muscle memory by doing these skills, but if you do them right. And so I think that's something that a lot of people miss on this, is like, these girls are just so incredibly strong. Like, that, yes, incredibly strong, but what's really important is that they have the mental fortitude to understand actually how to do these skills in the first place and do them correctly. And that may even be harder than gaining the strength itself to do it, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it's such a skill intensive sport,
Hmm.
that you're right. It's not just physical strength, and I lean on the strength so much. We were just talking about right there, and you see him kind of warming this up as I
Hmm.
think Levy's about to go down into a split right here. Yeah, that's what she's
Yes.
going to do. Good God, unbelievable. This is just the warm ups. Oh my God, I was watching. So
Yeah.
they came to UMHB for the first meet of the year, and I'm watching warm ups, and I look over. And at the time I didn't know who Levy was. There's Levy, and she's got Jordan on top of her, and they do that thing. You're like, wow, that's unreal. And then I watch her start going in the splits, and I was like, this is not fair. You
Yeah.
guys don't be able to do that. But I think the strength too of a top. I mean, right there you saw Jordan went into a handstand. Oh, that's a tough bobble. She went into a handstand and then wound up rotating down into a straddle, rotating out of it again.
Yeah.
Unreal. Like to be able to do that. I can't even listen. I can't even like put my hands on the ground and rotate my hips back and forth. And to watch that is
Same.
amazing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But I think, even for probably a lot of these girls will experience this, is that the work that you're putting in the weight room is huge, right? But a lot of the times you'll notice that sometimes the girls that aren't lifting the most amount in the weight room may actually be the ones that are competing the skills. They're the ones going out, and it's because of that technique that they have. And I speak from experience. I am not lifting the most in the weight room whatsoever. As much as I'd like to be, and that I work towards, that's not where I was at personally. And I came into acro at literally 110 pounds. I was a toothpick, a little baby toothpick. And so I had to work to get to the strength that I'm at and the size that I'm at. But it was because I had the technique, and that I was observing, and I was almost like mocking in a way of how other athletes were doing these skills. And so the strength came with it. I was able to gain that strength with it. But when I was able to have the stability and the technique to do the skills, then it got me on the mat compared to the girls that are lifting the heaviest per se.
Absolutely. Some bobbles here from Augustana. We saw that when they go into the set and they go at the half round, that they kind of got a little bit on the heels. And from what I've learned about acros, typically if you wind up falling back, it's because your weight is too far forward, and then you wind up having to throw yourself back, and then having a little bit of a trouble getting with the inversion there. You know, when you're going against somebody like Baylor, okay, Tori, you've gone against Baylor in your career, right?
Yes, I've gone against them twice.
When you go against somebody like Baylor, okay, you're so mentally tough. Like, I know that you're not gonna, you maybe not, but tell me about when you see the people around you. Do you feel people feel that pressure, that they know that Baylor's going to be perfect, or at least they're going to be really good, and so they like, I have to be perfect, and maybe it creates an error from that?
Yeah, so one thing that about Baylor and specifically about HPU is that, and the culture that we have at HPU is that we are Baylor fanatics. We love watching them, right? And you may not find them at other teams. We just want to beat them. We want to see them fall, this and that. Like, you're going to hear that a lot from other teams. But one thing about HPU is we love Baylor and we love competing against them. And it comes with a loss, of course, at every time. But we go into it like, this is an awesome opportunity for us to increase our national qualifying score. We can get a high score at this meet, even when we're being compared to Baylor, while also watching some awesome acro, right? Like, and a lot of the part about learning this sport is being able to observe and mock others in a certain way. So it honestly inspires our team to go against them, because when we get to watch them do cool things like this, then we feel the confidence to go out and be like, we see ourselves in those girls, and, we can go out, and maybe it's not at the same exact level or the same start value, but we can have the same confidence that that they have, because we're practicing the same amount. We're going into the weight room the same amount. We're doing that hard work that they're putting in. And maybe we're not as naturally talented, but we see ourselves in those girls, and it gives us the confidence to go out and compete at that high level. So for us, I speak for my entire team, we are always excited to compete against Baylor, even when it comes with a loss.
So I can't remember in y'all's acros or your pyramids. Did you guys see, I was watching Baylor, and one of the things that always amazes me is when they go straight into that extended handstand, where they're inverted, but they're not inverted at the shoulders. They're inverted at the extension. Did you guys have that in there, or did you guys have the inversion at the shoulders?
Yeah, so for our pyramid this last season, we did the high hand-in-hand invert. So we did that this last season, and then the season previously, my junior year, I was in 2 acro heats doing as the base for the high hand-in-hand, and so that top was a senior, so that's why she was no longer here this last year, and so we had another top step into that role and do well in that.
Yeah, were you the middle base for that? In the pyramid?
Yes, I was.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm trying to give her the opportunity. She's not going to do it. I'm going to brag on her. So here's the deal. Tori is the middle base. So if you look at me in the pictures in some of the pyramids, you're going to see Tori in the middle base. I am blown away by middle bases, because I want you to understand something about pyramids. Pyramids, I'm getting ahead of myself because they're not at pyramids yet, but pyramids are 3 levels high. So there's a bottom base, or a bottom level. Usually it has either 1 or 2 bases. Typically the most high levels are going to have kind of a bridge base, a back bend base, and the others will have, and I'm not saying they're low level, these are not easy things to do, but we'll have like a thigh stand base. So there'll be 2 bases and you're standing on their thighs. I think a lot of the inversions take place with thigh stand bases. And so basically what it is, a middle base has their feet on top of the thighs of either 1 or 2 other athletes. And then, so one, you're standing on something that's not solid. Now, don't get me wrong. These ladies are strong but like either way, like even if you're standing on a human that's very strong, you're still not on solid ground. And then they have someone that's on top of them that they're having to hold. And so it's one of the things I always try and say is, so anytime that you have movement that starts at the extremity, movement that starts in the core, it's going to move towards the extremity. And so the problem is, I say the problem, it's not the problem, it's the most amazing thing about this, is that while you're standing on top of someone, holding someone up above you, you have to be so firm throughout your core, because if it starts in the core, not only is it going to go down and you're going to wobble on legs, it's going to go down and you're going to wobble in hands, and then you got all kinds of trouble. And so middle bases are, I mean, they're my heroes. And so I think it's one of those interesting things. How do you learn, and maybe there's a really good question coming out of me just bragging on all of the middle bases in the world. How do you learn those skills? Because the middle base thing, there's certain things about acro and tumbling. Acro and tumbling is an amalgamation of a lot of different things, but there's certain things about acro and tumbling that are unique, whether it's because there's not guys and girls in pyramids and in some of the acros that you see in some of cheerleading. If you come from a gymnastic world, you're like, what are we doing building pyramids?
Yeah.
How do you learn things like being a middle base when there's not really anything else to compare it to?
Yeah, so everything basically starts on the ground, right? So you'll actually see the foundation of the things that we're doing in the pyramid start in the acro event, right? And so a lot of the times we won't even touch pyramids at practice until we get the concepts and the basics of acro done, because all those skills are really what we're putting on top of the pyramids, right? So the straddle holds, it all happens on the ground first, and we'll even start on blocks, or we'll be on our knees as the base, and so that that's a really small jump for the tops there. And so everything really starts on the ground, and then in order to then pick who that middle base is going to be, or to train up multiple people who that middle base is going to be, like, it's going to be who's the sturdiest on the ground, right? Because if you're walking around in skills as the base, or you're not showing as much stability, then nobody's going to want to put you on top of them to do that skill, right? So it really is just like, who's the most stable in the skill to then be able to put them up, right? So that's why you'll see is that they don't switch out Levy to do the handstand pyramid for them, right? Is because she's obviously the sturdiest one, and they put her in the acro heat for that. So then obviously let's put her on some thigh stands, right? So that's kind of where it starts, is like, who's the best on the ground, and then we'll give you the sturdiest thighs that we can find, and hopefully it's somewhat similar for you. There's an adjustment period, obviously, but it's thankfully the rules of the sport, although strict, still allow for a lot of movement here and there. And so it really is up to that individual, like how they like their feet, or how they like their legs being held. Like, believe me, I'm picky about it. Like, I have my favorite bases under me. I hate to say it, but I will handpick the girls that I want underneath of me, because I know what will make the pyramid successful. And so it really just comes down to the stability of it.
Yeah, that's incredible. Okay, so we were talking about this. Here's the most incredible movement in Levy and Jordan, as they're gonna. So we do this. Now here's the deal: is a lot of other bases in this sport, what they'll do is they'll turn, and then they'll get on a knee, and then they'll extend out. Levy's just gonna slide. She's got special shoes on for this, by the way. So she's gonna slide, and then because that's not nearly enough, apparently, she's gonna go ahead and rotate open. And I just, there's some things that I just don't. I'm not speechless at a lot of things. I kind of make it my life's mission to be able to talk a lot. That just blows me away at how good that is. And so kind of amazing. Okay, I want to ask you one more question. I'm having so much fun, but I'm going to let you go at some point. But okay, I want to ask you one more question. Tell me about your progression from being a freshman to being a senior as an athlete. Because you talked about it. You came in and you came from a gymnastics background. You came in, you were in comp tumbling only when you started off. As a senior, obviously I watch you, and you are a middle base, and you're kind of a real firm in the base elements for you guys, and y'all had some amazing tumblers that came in behind you. But tell me a little bit about your development and kind of how that went.
Yeah, so there, I just saw my team.
There you were, absolutely.
Yep. Yep, just saw myself there. Yeah, so with the development of that, I came in knowing, okay, if anything, there's the sharks again. With anything, I know how to tumble. That's the only consistent aspect from gymnastics to acro is there's tumbling and there's strength involved, right? And so even at that point, I could just I had tumbling, but not really acro tumbling, right? So in gymnastics, you can do multiple back tucks in there, or even like front twisting tumbling. So unfortunately, that was my thing in gymnastics, was all of the tumbling skills that you don't do in acro.
Oh man.
And so I kind of came in And I tried the back tumbling, so the round off back handsprings and the layouts, and I tried twisting here and there, and it was just not really my thing. But I I knew I have to be in something. Like
Mhm.
I am so intrinsically motivated, and at that point we had almost 50 girls on our team. Like it was such a huge team, and like everyone was getting, put in this spot, and if you didn't immediately look good at doing something, you were on the side, and you could try to learn how to do it on the side, but otherwise bummer, right? And
Mhm.
so it was one thing that I was like, okay, I don't need anyone else to teach me how to do it. I can do compulsory tumbling. I know how to do all those skills already, and I can mimic the girls that are already in it. And so at this point, our coach had made 3 different groups. We had 3 full groups of compulsory tumbling. And obviously she was like, it's not 1, 2, 3. It's not the order. It was obviously that,
Close
right? And
enough.
so, poor old me, I'm in group 3. I'm with the girls that are like back tucking to their face. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, guys, I'm not back tucking to my face. What's going on? Right. And so every single time, even when group 1 and 2 went out there, I was on the side mat doing the same skills
Mhm.
alongside them, just on, the bench mats at the
Mhm.
time at practice. And so I did that, and thankfully we had a tumbling coach at the time who he saw my efforts. He really, really saw me, and even after all the times that I went into our head coach's office, and I was like, I know I can do this. I know I can be the best one out there. I'm working for it. You can see that I am. Like, she told me, you're not part of the big picture, Tori. You're not part of our bigger picture. I'm not seeing you out there. And I then eventually talked to our tumbling coach, and he came into the office and advocated for me and is like, hey, it's going to be my fault if she screws up, but
Mhm.
we're going to let her compete, at least at the first meet. Like, we'll put her out there, and if she screws it up, then hey, it's totally on me, right?
Mhm.
First meet, I go out there, I stick every single one of the skills.
Mhm.
And so I was able for the entire year to be a consistent tumbler in that spot. But still at that time, like tumbling was not particularly even still my thing. Like it was extremely painful for me, but I saw it as the thing where it's like nobody has to teach me to do this. Like I already know how, so let me do this because I'm not getting the attention that I need on other skills that need to be formed, right? And so
Mhm.
then with that coaching change that we had after that first year gave me a little bit of that opportunity because it came from our coach came from a girl being on the team with me. So she honestly saw my potential and at least, didn't start putting me in things, but at least was giving me the opportunity to grow
Mhm.
in those different aspects. And so my second year, I didn't do comp tumbling anymore because I was starting to grow in my abilities as a base, and the tumbling was hindering kind of my abilities to base because it was more painful than it was rewarding at that point. And so I was getting better at that, and I got put in an acro heat doing just a straddle hold popover for 6 element acro, and that was like the best thing in the world to me because I was like, they see my potential. Everyone on the team can do a straddle hold popover, like duh, like that's a basic skill, right? But that coach saw potential in me to like grow into that, and that I could be in that acro heat. And 6 element is crazy, like having to do the synced
Oh
six
yeah.
element and that was the first year of it too, actually.
Mhm.
So it was a lot of pressure in that way, and so I felt a lot of pride in being like, okay, that's the only thing I'm in and other than team event, and I'm being allowed to do that, right? And so then the next year it was like, okay, there was some pyramid changes where the start values changed when okay, we need to see you guys doing harder pyramids, so that means we need bases that are able to step up for that. And so there was a lot of girls that were like, okay, like they were already in a lot of things previously, and so they were the ones that kind of immediately were like, let me step up and try these new skills. And so
Mhm.
I stood back, and I'm an observer, right? Like, so I need to be able to know that I can do something before I really go out there and do it, right? So I kind of stood back for a couple months and watched the girls try it with our different tops, and like nobody was quite getting the one-to-one handstand. Like nobody could get it figured out. And I went up to our assistant coach at the time and I said, I I've been watching. Like I know I can do it. Like just let me try it. Like please, instill some trust in the top that, please tell her that you believe I can do it because she may not believe me even
Mhm.
at first. Like, but just know that I can. And on the first day, we got it. We got the high hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so then from there, I started learning how to do the push press, the human push press as well, and was able to be the only person on the team doing that as well. And so from there, it was like that competition is what got me to that point, is being able to. I had a vision for myself and I saw it. And although it took a couple years to get there, I was patient though. And I was patient. I waited. And when I saw the right moment, I was able to get in there and be that person and be consistent for the team. And then through that, I was able these last 2 years to grow on those skills and help others grow on the skills too. Because at the start, right, it's like, okay, I get this skill with this one person. That's the only person I can do it with. Like we've got that trust in each other. And so after that kind of passed and I was able to get the confidence in myself to know like, okay, it's not just this person. Like I didn't just get lucky with this one person. Like I'm actually genuinely capable of doing these skills with just about anybody. Like that's when I was then able to start doing them with the other athletes on my team and help them grow as well. So that when I leave, they're able to build confidence in other bases to be able to be like, hey, I've done that 1-to-1 high handy before. So let me help you as a top now. And let me help you as, to the bases, right. That are wanting to learn to do that. So, and that's what really, helps the athletes grow is like when you have two people that have no idea what they're doing, that makes for a difficult learning process. But when you're able to help those athletes, continue to grow and then be able to help each other, it's much better when you have, that one athlete that's like, hey, I went out there and competed it before. Let me help you grow in this skill. And so that was really like the most rewarding thing for me at the end of it was like, during our postseason where we weren't really, we didn't make nationals for the most part. We have one athlete headed there for a tumbling event. But other than that, like we had a full postseason where we could just practice. Right. And so that was my goal is how do I, teach other bases and then help other tops to get to that point of where they can now help each other and instill confidence in each other. That was the most important thing. And that's what I needed too when I was a young athlete is someone who just had confidence in me because I had it, but I was searching for someone like to really give me that push. So sorry, long story, but that's really what I want to be for other athletes too. Is like I have a vision, and so I want to be able to help other athletes see that within themselves as well and know their worth. Because I was told multiple times my freshman year, I'm not part of the bigger picture. I'm not, my worth was not seen, even though I was on the team. And so it's important to me to have girls that are on teams that see their worth and that are able to compete. So
that's really amazing. Yes. That's really amazing. Okay, so I got to tell this story, and then I'm going to let Tori go. But so here's the story: is so I'm texting Tori yesterday, and for those of you that were watching Acro all day yesterday, you realize that there was a point right at the beginning of the UMHB meet where the feed wasn't there. It was just I don't know. It wasn't like it was broken. It just wasn't there. It was just it. And so, we're going and people are messaging me and I'm like, well, maybe they're running behind, the meets were long and I was wrong, obviously, because the meet was going on. And somebody was like, oh, like someone that was there was like, oh no, they're going on. And so, as I'm messaging Tori, Tori, the meet, it pops up and I'm like, oh, there it is. Great. And just like nothing ever happened. Boom, there it is. And so I'm texting Tori and Tori goes, she goes, yeah, that was me. I go, what do you mean? So here's the deal. Okay, I don't even know how you find a phone number for ESPN, but Tori found a phone number for ESPN, called and said, hey, the NCATA feed is not working. You need to get it fixed. And so listen, Tori has said this a couple of times that she's like one, persistence, and two, when she wants to get something done, she's going to get it done. I believe her 100% because I don't know many people that can call ESPN and make ESPN fix something. But Tori Letourneau is tops of that list. So very impressive there, Tori. I will tell that story forever, by the way.
Well, and Kyle, believe me, I took it as an opportunity to teach this support man about acro and tumbling as well. I because, he was like, he didn't believe me that the NCATA national championships are on. He had no idea what that was. And I said, okay, allow me to tell you what the website is so you can, one, see that they're happening, while also take some time after you're done at work to then read up on it as well. So
That's right.
yeah, you get to learn something as well while I'm telling you that your stream isn't working. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
amazing. Oh, that is so
yeah,
funny. Oh my gosh. Tori, thank you
it's,
so much for spending like an hour and 15 minutes with me.
of
Um,
course.
like I have so much fun doing it. I can talk about this stuff forever. And I'm in awe. Tori, it has been so awesome. Not only getting to talk to you now, but getting to talk to you all year long. Listen, if anybody has stuck around this long, please, I need you to consider giving Tori a job, because this young lady needs to be shaping and teaching young athletes. And I here's the deal. I have zero pull anywhere, but Tori, anytime you need me to lie for you, like I mean, I'll tell them you went to the moon for all I care.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, she was on the spaceship with Katy Perry. She's the one that actually landed that spaceship. So there we go. Oh, I do have to, one last thing. Your favorite movie choices on the website are quite interesting. I
Oh my
don't know.
gosh,
You might have put those up 4 years ago.
what did
Um,
I say?
I don't even have it up anymore. But man, you were. Oh, here we go. Okay, now stick with horrible broadcasting here. But I'm going to go back and take a look at this, because
Oh
these were.
gosh.
I mean, I'm watching them. I'm reading them, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I've got to give her a hard time about this, and then I go off and delete it.
Oh my gosh, I have to see now. I have no idea what
Yeah.
I
Oh
have an
yeah.
idea what I might have said, but
Oh yeah. We're definitely building the tension here. As the slow build for the. All right, here we go. So first off, let's see, favorite movies. All right, first off, number one is The Meg. I mean, really, Tori, The Meg?
come on, I am a shark through and through, so I had to include a shark movie
Were,
in there,
were
Kyle.
you
Come
were
on.
you were you rooting for the shark the whole time?
No, I wasn't,
I
but
don't know. Wait, listen. Being out where you are, I don't know if I would be watching too many shark movies. I'd be so afraid to go in the water, man.
I have like little bits of doubt here and there where I'm like, I walk in, I'm like, I can't see my feet right now, so maybe I'm a little uncomfortable. But otherwise, like, I'm not really scared. Like,
Yeah,
and all of the locals here are like, the sharks are our friends, like they're totally
they're our
cool. And so
friends.
I just try and trust them and
That's
just
right,
go
man.
with that.
That's right.
And I'm a shark forever. I bleed blue, so I have to trust them, right?
So, all right, number two was Bring It On, which I'll give it to you. I listen. I grew up in that era when that movie, I was in high school when that movie came out, and I'm with you. I'm a big Bring It On fan myself.
Yeah, my mom actually named me after the head cheerleader. So if her and my dad are watching, hi mom and dad. But so my real name is Torrance, and I go by Tori. And so yes, my mom decided that she kind of had my my life already planned out for me when she called me Torrance. Like, she's going to be the captain of somewhat something something, and so she had me
Boy,
as
your mom was
Torrance.
spot on.
Yes.
Spot on. As you were out there, I mean, it's a deal because well, here's the deal too, because like I mean, very similar. Like you kind of wound up coaching your team
Yeah.
basically. This wow, too many. Your mom is spooky. Your mom is
I
spooky.
know. It's
Um,
kind of spooky.
oh yes, and then and I got to give it to you on the third one. I got to give it to you on the third one. The Hannah Montana movie, man.
Yes.
So what is it that we love about the Hannah Montana movie?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love the double life, obviously, because that's kind of what being an athlete is like. Like,
Yes, it is.
I honestly, I go to class and I sit in the back of the class. So I barely say a peep. Like, I sit there and I'm just like, you would have no idea that after class, I then go to acro practice and I lift girls up in the air and scream my head off. So I relate a little bit to that movie in that way, where I keep kind of those two worlds separate in a way,
Yeah.
but they're both equally part of who I am. So I have a little relation to that. Well, also I just love Miley Cyrus and that was the era that I grew up in
Yeah.
personally, was the Hannah Montana
Oh
era.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, okay, Tori, thank you so much. Okay, so I'm gonna give Tori instructions real quick. don't leave. I'm going to end the stream. Don't leave Tori. But
Okay.
For everybody that's watching, thank you for joining us. I have had an absolute ball. I'm going to try and do more and more of these. I've had so much fun getting to talk to everybody about them. So, Tori, thank you so much. Congratulations on an incredible career. Cannot wait for what is coming next for you. I love, okay, here's the deal. I love Ralph and Riley. Maybe I can talk you into being like a third assistant. That'd be really nice. So bring it on down to
anything you can help me with, Kyle. I am really trying here.
All right.
If there's any coaches out there, I want to be a part of your team.
Yes, absolutely. And you need her to be a part of this team. So, all right. Well, guys, thank you so much for spending a lot of time with us. We've had a ton of fun, and we will talk to you guys soon.